All right, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Delano Podcast News. This is What's Up Delano number 3. We're here with Mr. Girard, so stay tuned.
Well, Andrew, I'll have to admit I did not do my homework about the elections, but I always wonder about elections when people come up the day after the election or that evening and give their opinions, yet there are so many absentee ballots out that some of these races are not complete yet. The Delano High School one was the easiest one because there were 3 candidates for the election and there was no opposition. So I guess it wasn't even on the ballot, which I thought was a requirement, but apparently not.
No, I believe they opted to not do it because there was nobody was running against anybody. So they saved themselves a little bit of money, is what I heard.
Well,
so it saved the district
that makes
some money.
sense unless somebody's going to get 1,400 write-in votes. I guess that's not going to happen ever.
Yeah. Go ahead.
On the city race, I was very surprised to see that Brian Osorio, a newcomer and probably the youngest gentleman ever to be elected to the city council, had the most votes of any candidate. I first met Brian back in May, and he came to my home with some friends and asked, what would you do to be a successful candidate? And my opinion was that personal contact is obviously the best way to go, but it's difficult to get around and see so many people or to do a lot of campaigning in areas where there's lots of people. So I know he was active at graduations and the local festivals, and apparently he did do quite a bit of door-to-door campaigning. He's a graduate of Cesar Chavez High School and also of University of California, Berkeley. And I believe at age 22, he's probably the youngest Delano City councilman ever. Maybe closest to him before was Ricardo Chavez, who is now Delano City clerk. Well, that's it for politics. One of the other happenings in Delano I've been trying to track down for a few weeks was whether the annual Thanksgiving dinner in the community is going to take place. And I heard nothing about it, and I'm not sure. There's several reasons. It could be either difficult to organize all the donors or difficult to find a place for the event since the city armory is not currently available, and we don't know for sure. It may never be. But I think the City of Delano Police Department, and you probably had that with your interview with the chief, they've stepped in and helped fill much of the void with the announcement that they're going to have their first, and they call it annual, turkey roundup. So they're asking for donations from people, organizations, and businesses to donate a frozen turkey to help put turkey on every table this Thanksgiving. Very worthy cause for the police department. Now, the donations are to be taken up to November 8th at the, November 18th at the Delano Police Department or at the North Kern Christian Center Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the Christian Center is at 1201 Madison Street. And according to the flyer that I looked at the Chamber of Commerce office, the police department and the North Kern Christian Center are joining in this project with the Delano Joint Union High School District and the Delano Union School District. So you may know more about this than I do.
As far as I know, just about as much as you, as the Delano Police Department, they are working with other groups or a couple of groups, and they that's their plan, is to put a turkey on every table. And if you do have the means to provide a turkey or 2 or as many as you can, they are accepting them right now at the Delano Police Department. And again, they did their Hispanic Residence Academy, which took place. The first one was on Thursday, and that's what we talked about on the previous episode with them, with Delano Police. And afterwards, I talked with a couple of the officers, and they said there was a pretty good amount of people, and they had a really good reception on it, and they hope it continues to grow, and maybe they could start providing a little bit more as that comes, or maybe some more programs. I mean, definitely they're going to be looking forward to that.
Well, another flyer I noticed at the chamber was the Coats for Kids drive, also being conducted by the police department. And I ran across an old gift card I had from Kmart. So I went out there and took advantage of the many sales that they have and bought a couple of coats and had a couple of cheerleaders take them into the police department office. So Officer Lloyd Galatira is in charge of that. So anybody that wants to join that drive, the collection of coats will continue until December 1st. The donation drop-off point is the police department between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. and I'm sure the community would be very interested in supporting that drive as well. And while I was at Kmart, I asked, is there going to be a shop with the cops at Kmart since they're going to go out of business soon? And I was told, yes, they will. I ran across Mario Nunez, the officer who heads that, but it was on a Halloween night as I drove by his home, and I yelled out to him to give me a call so I could get some information, but I think he was quite busy that night, and he hasn't gotten back to me yet. And you're on the Chamber Board, so you know that the applications for the Delano Chamber of Commerce Christmas Parade, which is scheduled for Tuesday, December 4th, those application forms may be picked up at the Chamber office. And the theme is Christmas Around the World. It will begin at 6 o'clock, and the check-in and lineup starts at 3:30 p.m., and Delilah Mascarenas of the Chamber is the parade director. The check-in table will be at 7th and Main Street in the San Joaquin Paint and Glass lot. Also, I heard at the Chamber, but I have received no other information, that there was going to be a big band competition, and you probably know more about this than I do, and it's scheduled to take place November 17th at the Robert F. Kennedy Stadium, and that event should bring a lot of people to Delano and give a lot of business to the community. Another community event, the Harvest Holidays Association met on Thursday, had only about 6 members present, but they agreed that next year's event should take place October 7th through the 9th, and they gave a lot of praise out to many of the directors and also to the high school and elementary school districts for their great support of the event. And though only about half were present, most of them agreed that keep the same locations, and they believe that the same people who are chairpersons in charge of events are willing to do that once again. And this will be great for them because they'll have a second year going in. They got a lot of experience behind them. They know what needs to be done. And the chairperson, Alice Duarte, would like to have much of the organization planned when they come back to a meeting in early January. So the community is invited to that event to give input if they wish. And I believe that event is, I'm not sure, I think it is going to be January the 10th at 5:30 at the Chamber of Commerce office.
I'd have to check on that. We have a board meeting or a board of directors meeting coming up this Tuesday, so we'll have a little bit more information on that, all that's going to come to play for next year.
Well, it's going to be interesting on Monday. That's the day that the celebration will take place for the Veterans Day, although I guess it's Sunday is the official day, but it goes over to a holiday on Monday. And I hear that family and friends of 100-year-old World War II veteran Martin Medrano will meet at the Delano Elks Lodge, and they will be honoring Medrano on his birthday. He was born November 12th, 1918. He enlisted the Army at age 22, and he served with an infantry division stationed in the Philippines. So tying in his birthday with Veterans Day and is going to be quite an event for him, I'm sure, at the Elks. And I was told at the Elks Lodge, they remind that anybody is welcome to go to their hosted Monday night football gatherings at the club bar, and they always have a dinner available to the public. And also, they're going to be moving because of the Thanksgiving holiday, their bingo that normally would take place on Thanksgiving will now be scheduled for November 29th. And that bingo is open to anybody at the Delano Elks Lodge. And a fundraiser that will join the Elks Lodge with the Cesar E. Chavez varsity boys baseball team is planned Saturday, December 1st. From 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Elks parking lot. The $10 fundraiser meal will include tri-tip sandwich, salad, and chili beans. And another event from the Elks Lodge, Tonki Zaninovich is the chairperson for the annual Elks Hoop Shoot, and that is scheduled Saturday, December 8th at Delano High School. And the sign-ups for boys and girls will take place at the respective schools. And I just happened to get one last word that the Trunk or Treat program at Cesar E. Chavez Park drew about 2,000 youngsters and adults, so that's one of the community's biggest events of this fall season. Last night, you said you were unable to get up to the Robert F. Kennedy football game, and that one was sort of interesting because it matched two schools, Kennedy and Arvin, that already played in a league game, and Kennedy won that game quite handily. But this time around, Kennedy had some fumbles and two pass interceptions given up in the first half, and at halftime, Kennedy trailed by a score of 13-10. But then Kennedy came back and dominated the second half and came away with a 44-20 victory over the Arvin Bears. And that's the only school remaining in the football playoffs is Robert F. Kennedy. And basketball season is just around the corner. The Delano boys basketball team will have scrimmages at North on November 17th. And their first home game will be with South Bakersfield on Monday, November 26th. Girls basketball teams, they have a scrimmage schedule for November 13th with Kennedy, Farmersville, and Strathmore at Delano High. And on Saturday, November 17th, there are Bakersfield scrimmages scheduled in which Delano will take part. And for boys soccer, Delano boys are at East for a scrimmage November 13th, and the girls are host on November 13th to East Bakersfield and Bakersfield Christian High School. So that's a report on sports, basically. And when the all-league teams for football and volleyball become available, I'll try to pass those along as well. Thank you, Andrew.
All right, thank you. And one more event we do have. Oops, sorry about that. One more event we do have is the DRMC is going to be having their diabetes walk this Thursday. We're going to plan to have a little bit more information about that. We should have someone coming from Delano Regional Medical Center to speak on a podcast just before the event, but just mark your calendars for Thursday, this coming Thursday, and we'll get you more information on that. From City Council, I did attend the City Council meeting this last Monday, right before elections. We only had three members. Council member Reuben Hill was not present at the meeting, so we only had three members. Some new information that we did get was there is a new 172 housing project that is planned to take place right there on Albany and right where the other housing is, right behind the Maya Theater. They did plan a 2.7 acre park that's going to be part of that within that community. Heard some comments from the developer. The spokesperson for the developer, and they did say that they plan having up to about 10,000 square foot lots. I don't know how that's going to stay, as that'd be pretty nice to have some pretty good sized homes right there behind the Maya Theater. So, 172 homes, that's pretty good to add on to what we do, because I know we haven't had any new housing since the ones right there before, but they're all pretty small, about no bigger than, I believe them, don't quote me, I think they're about 1,500 to 1,600 square feet. So if we get bigger houses, draw more people in, it's going to be really great, especially to add on to the marketplace area.
Well, it'll be interesting because I believe everybody thinks that that's in the Robert F. Kennedy district, but if I'm correct, these high school students who live there are actually in the Cesar Chavez High School district, not in the Kennedy district, which is closer.
Yeah, that's actually, I believe it's Garces Highway that borders that. So if they're on the south of Garces Highway, they go to Cesar E. Chavez. So they'll be adding more students to CCHS. Will be interesting to see if the high school redesigns that boundary or redoes their boundary markings, because they might have to balance out the students that are going to be going there. The elementary district board meeting was really good. We did have two members absent. We had Frank Herrera and Ramon Cardenas that did not show, so I believe that marks the fourth council meeting that
School board meeting.
School board meeting. That's the fourth meeting that member Cardenas has been absent from. So, it'd be interesting to see how everything plans out with the absentee votes. Right now, he currently trails incumbent Robinall by about 10 votes. So, we'll look to see in the next coming weeks. They said about 2, maybe 3 weeks, we'll probably see those results finalized. So, just looking forward to that to see what the future of the district is going to be.
I believe the office of the city council offices and the school board offices, most of those people who take office do the swearing in at their first meetings in the month of December. So by that time, something will transpire that they should know for sure who's elected. But it's funny that we're so interested on election nights, what's going to happen, but not everything is decided on election night, and not even the next day. It's weeks away before you really know the final tally.
Yeah, there's a lot of the measures those were defeated by a good amount, so they're pretty far away on everything. We know that Measure J and K, which were the cannabis ones, those both got defeated. So I mean, as far as Kern County, those got defeated. The housing one, I believe, got defeated as well. Was it Prop 10? Believe so.
Yes, and it was interesting, some of those state propositions. I know the one that had to do with the Children's Hospital. If you mentioned children or some other thing, I think the public went for those programs because it would sound like you're a bad person if you voted against children or if you voted against mental health care. So those measures all passed. And then, of course, there was the gas tax that people were complaining that it was phrased in an incorrect way by the state, but that won't come up again maybe for another 4 years.
Yeah, and then believe the one for water storage, which was kind of a iffy proposition because some people said, yeah, we need the water storage, but some say it wasn't written out right, or it could have been written out a little bit better. So, but that one did not pass. So California actually voted to not do the water storage. And interesting, when we looked at the percentages for after election night, only 38% of the state of California voted, is what I believe we saw. And this around the same thing for Kern County. We only saw about 38% of the voters turn out to vote. So I mean, that's a little disappointing because I mean, we have this right, or we have this privilege to vote and to put all these candidates and measures and everything to better our communities. And when we only have 30%, less than half, I mean, that's not really, that's horrible to
really
see
just
that.
slightly over a third. Now, the water storage, what I heard on a talk show recently was the fact that even though water storage was mentioned as being provided by that, it didn't say how much of the bond was going to go toward water storage, and it was the feeling of the person on the talk show that very little of it actually would end up in water storage, and much of it would go for other things that were more toward the environmentalist viewpoint.
Yeah, well, I mean, all we could do is see how everything plans out towards the end of this month. So we'll wait till those final the final count of everything. And then we'll just see what happens in the month of December. We'll see what county has to say, and wish a lot of luck to Robert F. Kennedy. They're going to be facing Carruthers. Yeah, Carruthers. That's going to be a rematch from last year, which they got defeated. So it'll be interesting to see how everything pans out for him. Hopefully, we have Coach Mion back on here right before that, so we can get some insight on him.
Well, it's interesting. The teams of the past won section championships. This team is going to have a very difficult time. If they get by Carruthers, they've got to play Shafter again, and Shafter is the #1 seed and a team that handed Kennedy sort of a decisive loss in their league meeting. But you have to remember, this year's record for Kennedy is 10 wins and 1 loss. And that's the best season they've ever had. It's the best finish they've ever had in the South Sequoia League. And one of the reasons they were so successful in the past is that they played in a lower division in the section and also in the state playoffs. So this year's team has a little more of a challenge because it's in a higher division in the playoffs, and yet it has the best record in school history, 10 wins, 1 loss. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I have to say that's really good. I mean, especially for them moving up a division. So until next week, or until the next episode that we have, that's all the news that we have for this week. We'll keep everything in mind. We do have another council meeting coming on the following week, as well as the high school board meeting is coming up this Tuesday, right?
Yes.
This Tuesday. This Tuesday is the high school board meeting. So we'll try to get some information and see how all of that's going with them. And Until then, this is this episode of Delano Podcast News, and we'll see you guys later.